Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're going to continue on with our discussion of Hari Bhakti Vilas. And we were in the middle of discussing how to make the preparations for doing the Diksha ceremony, the Vaishnava Diksha ceremony. That's in Vilas number 2. And we talked a little bit about making the standila and the mandapa. The standila is the yagya kunda, or the fire altar. And so we talked a little bit about that. And now we're going to discuss some more aspects of the details of how to perform a typical Vaishnava initiation ceremony or Diksha ceremony. So let's have a look at Hari Bhakti Vilas, second Vilas. So I think at the end of last time, we discussed that there are many, many details that we can go into about how to build the sacrificial kunda or the fire altar for the place for putting the fire, for doing the homa ceremony, the yagya ceremony, fire ceremony. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami just mentions that I don't want to make this book too voluminous because there's a lot of details that we can go into about this. So there are other books which we can consult if people want to go into the details of the mandapa, means the pavilion that is erected, or the yagashala, the place in which the different sacrifices, the fire sacrifices are performed, and also the exact dimensions of all these things. But Gopal Bhatta says that, I don't want to make this book too big, so let's go on and let's just describe more of the essential elements of the ritual. So starting with Vilas 2 in text 52, he says, Ata Diksha Mandala Vidihi. Vidhi means a procedure or a prayoga. And then he says the process of determining the exact location for initiation. I wouldn't really translate Ata Diksha Mandala Vidhi for this. I would say the procedure for making the mandala, which is a mystical diagram used in Diksha. So that's what we're going to talk about. So here in the 52nd verse, it says, the instructor or head priest should construct the initiation area, which he's calling here mandape, in the mandap. Mandapa is, again, a pavilion, covered pavilion, usually. And you have to be very careful, of course, that the pavilion is high, the roof is high enough, or it has a vent at the top so that the flames and the smoke, if you have a big fire, you don't burn the pavilion down. And then he's saying that you should after after making that pavilion, then there's a platform that you make, and on that platform you want to purify the top of that platform, because you're going to make a mystical diagram there. So you want to purify that platform by sprinkling with panchagavya. So the word gau in Sanskrit means cow, and gavya means of the cow. So panchagavya means, pancha means 5, so 5 things of the cow. So there are 5 things we get from the cow. We get milk. From the milk, we can make that into yogurt. From the milk or the yogurt, we can churn that and we can make ghee. And then from the cow itself, the cow urine and the cow dung. So these are 5 products which are very useful, which we get all from the same animal, from the cow. So he says here that the instructor or the head priest, right, also known as the deshika or the acharya, or it could be a person nominated by the acharya to perform the actual fire ceremony, so that the guru, the Diksha guru, might nominate somebody else to do that, his assistant, right? We know this word for assistant priest is ritvik in Sanskrit. But that person is also highly qualified. The Vedic priests, there were 4 priests in the Vedic ceremonies, and they were the Brahma, the Advaryu, the Udgatri, and the Brahma, the Advaryu, the Udgatri, and the Hotri. The Hotri was the one who offered the oblations into the fire. The Udgatri sang the verses of the Samaveda in very nice tones. 7 swaras, 7 different tones, Sarigama Padani, Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti. So the Hotri and the Udgatri. The Advaryu was a priest, I believe, of the Yajurveda who knew the procedure, and he made sure. And then there was a Brahma priest who was the head priest who made sure that the procedure all went properly, and he would perform any prayaschitta or atonements for any mistakes that were made in the ceremony. So the Brahma priest is usually considered Brahma. The word Brahma is used not only for the creator, a form of that word is used for also for the supreme, but for Chaturmukha Brahma, the 4-headed form of Devata, who is considered the creator of this material world, or at least the engineer, the manipulator of the material elements that are created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And so therefore the greatest, the head priest is also called Brahma. In a sacrifice also, we call Brahma to be present at the sacrifice, to oversee the sacrifice. So sometimes a kurcha, a small set of blades of kusha grass, which is holy grass, which was created from the hairs of Lord Varaha. When Varaha Avatar was fighting Hiranyaksha, some hairs fell from his body and they grew up as this holy grass, which is called kusha grass, also known as Durva grass. And there's a Durva Shuktam in the Vedas also, which we can chant when we pick that grass. But that holy grass is used in sacrifice in many ways. And one way is that we make what's called a kurcha, or like a little wand, a magic wand, with tying that grass at the end, those blades of grass in a little knot, a special knot, which is called a Brahma Granthi. Again, the word Brahma, meaning spiritual or spiritual Granthi or knot, which is sort of like a figure of 8, like an infinity sort of symbol. And that is called a kurcha. And so we put that on the side of the fire pit, and we invoke Brahma there and worship Brahma to come in that place. Of course, that's part of the procedure for starting the fire. Well, we haven't got to that yet. That's probably not going to be mentioned. That's a minor detail that's there, and so it's probably not going to be mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. And besides, there are different types of fire ceremonies. There's the Vedic ones, and then there's the Pancharatric ones. There's the Tantric ones, or Agamic ones. So this Diksha ceremony is done according to Pancharatric rules and not Vedic rules. So there's some differences there. So anyway, getting back to the Panchagavya, the 5 elements coming from the cow, mixing those elements together, and there's a procedure for doing that, and they should be in certain proportions, and for different things, because they're used also for washing the deities sometimes in different cases, and purifying different elements, like for instance in the temple kitchen, or the paraphernalia of the Lord. Sometimes if it becomes contaminated in some way by touching something which is considered impure ritually, then we can wash it with Panchagavya or sprinkle it with Panchagavya. Also, when we do things like we get new japamala, or a new garland of beads for chanting on, or for wearing, or something like that, that can be sprinkled with Panchagavya to purify it and then offered to God before the Vaishnava wears it or uses it for japa meditation. So,
Swami?
Yes, go ahead.
One question.
Yeah.
Here, it's interesting, this information, because usually we just hear the instructions to purify with cow dung, but not with Panchagavya. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people just say cow dung. Sometimes people just say cow dung. But here we can see very clearly from the Sanskrit, because I don't want to take the translations of this translator. Um, some of his translations are a little bit faulty, so we should also look at the Sanskrit. So especially, and sometimes we can look at the commentary also. But here, the Sanskrit quite clearly says Panchagavya. So Panchagavya, but it doesn't mean that there's a lot of milk, a lot of ghee, a lot of there are different. Panchagavya is made in certain ways for different reasons. Like when you're plastering a place to make it clean, for ritual purposes, there's a lot more cow dung than there is of these other products like milk, yogurt, and ghee. Or even, for instance, though, also in the Diksha ceremony, like some other ceremonies, there's also the process of sipping Panchagavya, doing what's called Panchagavya Achamana. So Achamana is a ritual for purification of the body by sipping water and chanting the names of the Lord or different mantras. And sometimes we sip Panchagavya. So it happens, it's very normal, especially in other sampradayas like Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. When people go to take initiation, that they mix up some Panchagavya, and the guru and the shishya, before the teacher and the student, before doing the initiation, they both sip the Panchagavya. But in this Panchagavya, the cow urine is very little. The cow dung is very little, just a dab. Mostly it's made of milk and yogurt and a little bit of ghee. So it's like sipping milk basically. So it's but those other elements are in it. So it does. So it depends on the use, the proportions of cow urine, cow dung. What purpose are you going to use it for? It's not that we take equal parts of all these things, and that's the only way that we can make Panchagavya. There are other ways of making Panchagavya. But here, very clearly, it says Panchagavya, with Panchagavya. But it also says Gandham, right? Gandham, the word Gandha means smell, but in this sense, it means sandalwood paste or sandalwood powder is what it's. So water with sandalwood powder, first of all, purify with Panchagavya. And then water with sandalwood powder will make a nice smell, and it was also purify the place. Sandalwood is a very nice purifying thing. So so we looked right in the Sanskrit; it was right there. Okay, so let's continue on with text 53 and 54. Within the area, one should draw a lotus flower. So I guess everybody's seen a lotus flower, and the lotus flower is a symbol of Mahalakshmi. She's also associated with many lotuses. The sun god also, Sriman Narayana, Sriman Surya Narayana. Usually you see a deities of sun god holding two lotuses in his hands. So lotus is is symbolic of many things in Vaishnavism, Hinduism, and the lotus, we usually see the lotus in two different forms. One is we see the lotus when it's all closed up, the flower when it's all closed up. If you go to the market, they open up the petals and they show you how not, and then they put it out on a table and sprinkle it with water so it doesn't dehydrate. And then you see how beautiful the lotus is. Now, when you want to take it away, they close the petals up. You're going to take it for your worship, your temple worship or your house worship. They close it up and then they wrap it up, closed up. So also, even in the Upanishads, the heart of a person is compared to a lotus. So when we use lotus diagrams, we can also think this also symbolically also refers to our heart. Why is the heart referred to? Because the heart is the seat of consciousness. Of course, we think of even in modern languages, we talk about, my heart was broken, or I feel this in my heart. What we're talking about is feeling it in the mind. The idea in Vaishnavism, in Hinduism also, the idea is that the seat of consciousness of the whole body is within the heart. And also in Vedantic philosophy, we understand that the Atma, or the Jivatma, the soul, the individual soul, and the Paramatma, what's called the super soul, are both also residing in the heart. And this is seen in the Upanishads. The Upanishads describe that the heart is just like an inverted lotus bud. So if you take a lotus bud, its closed up petals, the lotus flower with its closed up petals, see this shape. If you turn it upside down, it looks like a human heart. Like if you dissect a human being and you look at his organ, that organ looks like an inverted lotus bud. And in fact, even not only in Hinduism and Vaishnavism, but also even in Buddhism, they have this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, right? So Om in the beginning is a sacred syllable, means "Oh my Lord." At the end, we have certain words that end mantras, that short mantras or mula mantras, root mantras, a lot of times have endings like Vosat, Vasate, Hum, Swaha, Namaha, or Fat. These are different endings that come at the end of these tantric or agamic type mantras. So here, with that Buddhist mantra at the end, they have this Hum mantra, Hum word. It doesn't mean a lot, doesn't mean a lot of things, but it has it ends differently. In Mantra Shastra, the ending of a mantra also indicates different things about the mantra, like the gender of the mantra. Namaha ending, when a mantra ends in Namaha, it's considered neuter. When it went in Swaha, it's considered a feminine mantra. So anyway, this is all getting into Mantra Shastra. But anyway, the Buddhists have this small mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani means a jewel. Mani means a jewel. And Padme is the locative, it means, in Sanskrit, it means in the lotus. The word Padma means lotus. So what is the jewel in the lotus? The jewel in the lotus is the Paramatma, the super soul, or the Atma, the soul within the lotus of the heart. So we always think that the soul, the seat of consciousness, because the soul is the seat of consciousness, is there within the heart of the living being, in that lotus. So whenever we see lotuses in our ritualism externally, we have to remember also that the Lord and the soul are there within the lotus inside the body. So we're going to see a lot of symbolism in the rituals in Hari Bhakti Vilasa as we go through Hari Bhakti Vilasa, and we should not just see the external rituals, but we should try to understand the internal meaning of the different rituals, right? The internal meaning of the different rituals. So what is the meaning of seeing, when we see lotuses, what do we think of? We think of Surya Narayana, we think of Mahalakshmi, we think of the lotus of the heart, the seat of consciousness of Paramatma and the Atma. We think of all these things when we see a lotus. So normally, to get back to Hari Bhakti Vilasa and this particular lotus that is being drawn here, normally the symbolic lotus is normally, doesn't matter what a real lotus, how many petals it has, but these symbolic lotuses, a lot of times they are shown with 8 petals. Now, sometimes we see lotuses with less or more petals. In Pancharatra also, there's different subject matters in Pancharatra. So there's 4 subject matters in Pancharatra: Jnana, Yoga, Kriya, and Charya. These are the four basic parts of a Pancharatra Samhita, of a Pancharatra. So Jnana means knowledge about the material world, knowledge of the different principles involved in this world. Yoga has to do with mystic yoga, and mystic yoga has to do with the different chakras within the body. Sometimes we meditate upon the universe as being a universal body of God. Sometimes we meditate upon the universe as being like within so like the universe has different planetary systems, and those can be considered to be like meditate. When we meditate upon our own body, we can there are different places in our own body which are equivalent or analogous to those planetary systems, and those places in the body are called chakras, areas of energy within the body. So from the Muladhara, which is at the base of the spine, between the anus and genitals, and up to the Sahasradhara, which is at the top of the head, or even above the head, sometimes conceived of like that. So there are these different places. Each one of these chakras, now the word chakra means a wheel. So a wheel, either we can conceive these things as wheels, as types of wheels with spokes, different numbers of spokes, or we can also conceive of them as lotuses. They're also considered like flowers with different numbers of petals. So the different chakras are also associated with different material elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, like this, mind, intelligence, ego. So whatever we do, whenever we start to do the rituals, right? The rituals have an external meaning. They also have an internal meaning. And there's a lot of symbolism in the rituals. And we should be aware not only of the first external understanding of a ritual is we have to be familiar with the ritual and the elements that we have to bring together, called the samagris, or the ingredients of the ritual, and then the procedure or prayoga of how to perform the ritual. So that's an external thing. Internally, we have to also understand the meaning, the deep esoteric internal meaning of the ritual. What does it mean? And every part of the ritual has a meaning. So we should not just know the mechanics, the external mechanics of the ritual, but we should understand what is the meaning. And that then when we perform rituals, we'll get much more out of the ritual than just simply mechanically doing it. Anybody can mechanically do a ritual. Well, not anybody, but I mean, if he's familiar with the technique. But the technique is not the most important thing. The mentality is the most important thing. The meditation is the most important thing. The person here, there's a student who wants to be initiated by a guru, by a teacher. That student has been living with the teacher for 1 or 3 years, as we saw in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the first Vilas, right? Or in the second Vilas. They've been testing each other. So they have been around each other a lot. So why this Diksha ceremony has so much importance is not just that the guru and the disciple get together and they do a fire ceremony. Because probably they've been doing a lot of these things over the year that they've been, testing each other. They've probably done a bunch of rituals already together, or at least the student has seen the guru do these rituals before, so it's nothing really new. But this particular ritual of initiation has some very, very deep and esoteric meanings. So every single part of it, which is described here, should be understood not only for its externals, but also for its esoteric and internal meanings. And that both the acharya, both the guru and the disciple should meditate upon the internal meanings when they're performing this ritual, not just going through the motions, And that is the same for all rituals. There's no use in just performing rituals mechanically. No. I mean, okay, maybe we can say there's a use because God tells us to do those things in the scriptures, so we have to do them. It's a duty that we have to do. Sometimes we do our duty in a mechanical way, but we gain so much more. We gain so much more by knowing and just like the mantra that's going to be given in initiation is the Supreme Lord, is non-different from the Supreme Lord. Understanding the mantra and understanding the Supreme Lord and understanding the meaning, the full meaning of the mantra, it takes a long time, or it has to be explained to you by the Shiksha Guru, by the Guru who is going to explain. In the case of Ramanuja, He had one guru who gave him the mantra, another guru who gave him the full purport of the mantra, who explained to him the inner details and the esoteric meaning. And in Sri Vaishnavism, there's a whole set of literature that is written, many, many, many books, to explaining in minute detail and going into the esoteric meanings of the mantras. So for any of us who have taken initiation in a particular mantra, it's very important for us to also go to the guru and ask him, please explain to us not just the mantra, not just how to use the mantra in rituals or in meditation, but the meaning of the mantra and the deep way in which we can use the mantra to advance in spiritual understanding. In the Vedanta, it says Jnanat Mokshaha, Jnanan Mokshaha. With the Sandhi, it becomes Jnanan Mokshaha. From knowledge comes liberation. And so this is the point. When we actually truly understand the mantra, we become liberated, because that is God. And of course, nobody can fully understand God, but we have to try to understand, first of all, we have to try to understand theoretically. And then, so theoretical knowledge is there, book learning and learning from the guru. And then that theoretical knowledge will be transferred into real wisdom and real realization by practice, by our practice. So here, anyway, let's get back to the actual point here. So the point is, we're making this lotus flower mandala. And so the lotus with 8 petals means something. The lotus is surrounded by 3 circles. So that means around the lotus, there are 3. These are sometimes called mekalas in the sense of a fire standila or a fire sacrifice. These are called mekalas or belts. And in the form of a mandala, sometimes you have 3 concentric circles that surround the lotus. Beyond these circles, the 12 signs of the zodiac are drawn. Now, exactly how they draw the signs of the zodiac, I'm not sure, because in the West, we have the zodiac signs, and we have certain symbols that we put, which have come into use in the West for those zodiac signs. But those symbols are not part of this Devanagari script or Sanskrit script or any of the scripts of India. So you might see, somebody might interpret this to putting those Western symbols. However, there's probably another way to indicate each of the zodiac signs. And of course, starting with Aries and going around to Pisces, there are these 12 signs of the zodiac. So what's the zodiac? The zodiac is an imaginary thing. It's a meditation also. That imagine that we are on, we don't have to imagine, we are on a planet, and around us in space, there are many, many stars, and there are even other planets. So if we take a geocentric, with the Earth in the middle, observation point. So let's say the Earth is in the middle for this point of reference. Not that we accept that the Earth is in the middle of the universe, not like that. But just for meditational purposes, the Earth is in the middle, where we are as an observer, and we look out into the sky, and we look from the east horizon around to the western horizon, and the Earth is turning. So different stars and planets will rise and set. They will rise over the eastern horizon, and they'll set in the western horizon. Just like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west every day, that's one planet, right? It's a star. It'll rise in the east and set in the west. So the moon also, and many other planets and stars. So there are stars out there, and the stars are so far away that they appear to be fixed. Actually, they're also moving, but very, very slowly from our distance. So we look out and we see what we see when we look out from the Earth, when we look around. That is called the ecliptic, the plane of the ecliptic. So the Earth being round, a circle has 360 degrees. if we divide that circle into 12 parts, 360 degrees divided by 12 is 30. So every 30 degrees is considered to be one sign, or also in astrology called one house of the zodiac. So here we've got 8 petals of a lotus, then we've got some circles around them, and around that we have the circle around the 3 circles is divided into 30 degrees sections, right? That's so that there are 12 sections around the circles, which are around the 8-petal lotus. So we have 8 petals in the 8 directions: north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest, like that. And then we have outside some 3 circles boundaries, and then outside that we have the zodiac signs from Aries always going around to Pisces, like that. Or if you want to, whatever the Sanskrit equivalents we can say, but they're the same thing. There are 12 signs of the zodiac, just like there are 12 months in the year. So each month, the moon will be in a different. Anyway, I'm not an astrologer, so we won't get too much into the details of this, but everybody knows that there are these zodiac signs, and that every month the sun travels into a different sign of the zodiac, not the moon, the sun. So, okay, then a nice sitting place, 4 aisles, a pathway, and 4 gates should be made. Okay, so this is it's a description of a typical yantra. Now, what it's talking about here, they're talking about Chatur Dikshu means 4. There's a Pitam, Chatur Pada, Bahuvriti Triumph. Okay. Anyway, there are these sobas, upasobas, soba, upasoba. There are dwaras. Okay, so what's being described here is a mandala. Now, there are different types of mandalas, which are very much like yantras. So yantras and mandalas are very similar. One of the differences between, usually you'll have a yantra for one deity or one particular deity, or there might be more deities, and a mandala will be more of a description of the whole universe, and there may be many, many deities which are installed or invoked on a mandala. What are we talking about mandalas and yantras? They are 2-dimensional forms, diagrams, mystical diagrams that have got meaning and are used to concentrate our meditation on certain esoteric ideas, certain spiritual ideas, and they can be worshipped like deities. So deities can be invoked, personalities can be invoked, different devatas or the Supreme Person, the Supreme Lord. And different mantras are used, and sometimes those mantras and yantras, especially yantras, not necessarily mandalas, but especially in yantras, we see also sometimes the mantras themselves are inscribed on those yantras. So you might see a Sri yantra, for example, which is the yantra for Mahalakshmi or Sri Devi, goddess of fortune. That is a very, very common one which people see, and it's made of 13 intersecting triangles. The triangle shape representing the female principle. So the supreme female principle is Sri Radha or Sri Lakshmi. So that is normally seen as a downward pointing triangle, the feminine, and an upward pointing triangle is the masculine. Here, sometimes we see in yantras, we see both those masculine and feminine put together, just like we see also in some Buddhist cults and sects, or in Eastern Asia, we see they use the yin-yang symbol, yin being masculine, yang being feminine. Or I'm sorry, the other way around, yang being masculine, yin being feminine, and they're intersecting the masculine and the feminine energy. So there's a recognition that in the material world, there are these different energies, the masculine and the feminine energies. And so they are represented by the different down-facing triangle, up-facing triangle, and sometimes put together in the form of a six-pointed star. So this is very common in the middle of a yantra. Here we don't, or a mandala. Here, and that can be called a chakra usually. But here we don't find that exactly, but we do find so far we do find the 8-petaled lotus, right? Okay. So outside of that, it's talking about aisles, or gates. There are gates. There are gates. So if anybody's seen yantras or mandalas before, usually they'll be outside of the main diagram itself. The outside portion has sections where it has pathways leading from the north, south, east, and west to the internal aspects, and those are called gates. So there's pathways, there's gates, there's aisles. These all have technical terms like soba, upasoba, ardhasoba, like that. In Pancharatra, for Pancharatric priests, there are different mandalas. The most famous one in Padmasamhita is the Chakrabja mandala. So chakra means the wheel, of course, and the abja means the lotus. So there's wheels and lotuses in this one. And it also has sobas, upasobas, ardhasobas. It has a nami. It has a pathway. It has stamens in the very middle of it, in the Karnika Chetra, which is the very middle of the flower. There are little stamens or little filaments, which represent different parts of the Astakshara or Dvadasakshara mantra, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All of these things have meanings, and there are different avatars and different personalities invoked in different places on the mandala. So here this is the particular mandala that they're saying should be used for this type of diksha. So there may be mandalas are sometimes used in festivals when festival performances are done, or even in installations or reinstallations of deities. Jirnodhara is called a reinstallation of an old temple or an old deity. Also, some prokshanas or kumbhabhishekams. Every 12 years, the temple is supposed to be renovated, and there's a ceremony so it's used in many types of tantric or agamic rituals. These yantras and mandalas. So each particular samhita in the Pancharatra, each book, the book which is governing the installation of the deity and the making of the temple, should also be used. The same text, the same scripture, should be used to consult on which mandalas to use. Okay, so once again, these are two-dimensional forms that can be worshipped. So they do fall under the category of a type of deity or a type of ritual design that is used. So sometimes, like if we wanted to worship Varaha and Bhumi, we could paint a picture of a boar and the goddess of the earth, and we could make a picture with colored powder on the ground, and we could worship the earth like that. Or else we could have a three-dimensional deity of Bhumi and Varaha. Or else we could have a yantra or a mandala, which doesn't look at all like the earth, the goddess of the earth, or a divine form of the Lord in the form of the divine boar, but simply has these geometric shapes and certain mantras or personalities invoked upon it. That could be a Varaha yantra or a mandala in which Varaha is invoked. So anyway, it's a little bit different if people are not familiar with this type of worship of this two-dimensional diagram, which is used to concentrate our meditation on certain aspects of the initiation. Then what can I say? You have to see this type of worship being performed, and you have to learn the procedures of how to do it. Here they're describing, and they haven't given too much description of it. It's not, we have to look, and perhaps we have to look in Kramadipika. This whole procedure is coming from Kramadipika. So we would probably want to look in Kramadipika to try to find out the exact nature of, to get an idea of what this yantra or mantra looks like. So anyway, continuing on, we're going to talk about Dikshanga Puja. So there's some puja, some worship procedure that goes on with the limbs of Diksha. So Diksha is a concept, is a mental concept, and it's also a spiritual concept, but it's also an external ritual that shows and helps us to concentrate on those internal parts of Diksha. So Diksha has different angas or different sections to it, different parts to it. So we're talking about the external ritual has different parts to it, and we're going to talk about that next. So continuing on in text 55, after completing his morning duties, right, the spiritual master should place a conch shell and other articles for worship in their proper places. So this is usually called Shanka or Patra Stapanam. And there's a method for placing all of these items. We also have to have the ingredients for the worship, which are called samagris. And they should be placed in certain places with certain rituals of placing them, washing them, and making sure that they're ready to be used. And this is usually called Patra Sadhana or Patra Parikalpanam. Parikalpanam is the proper word, Parikalpanam, because there are some mantras to be said and some procedures to go through in placing these articles. So what does it say here it says, Shankam Pujopacharam cha. So the upacharas, we know that there are different services which are offered in worship, and normally that we hear of 16 services from asana to swagata to visarjana. There are many of these, or for instance, offering a seed, offering welcome, and then finally offering valediction or prayers at the end, and surrender and bidding farewell to the personality. So this is called upacharas or service. So those services have to be performed with different items. So for instance, an asana, if we offer an asana to somebody, if we offer a seat to somebody who comes, we have to have a seat to offer to him, right? If we offer food to somebody, we have to have the food to offer to him. So all those things, and the conch and all these things have to be put in certain places. The word nyasa is also used here. So sometimes yatastanam, they have to be put in their place, in their particular place, and they have to be touched or positioned and deposited in certain ways. That is what we call parikalpanam. Parikalpanam means setting things up in a proper ritualistic way. So after completing his morning duties, now what does that mean, morning duties? That means the person has to get up, he has to take a bath, he has to take maybe more than one bath. Maybe he takes a physical bath, and maybe he takes a mental bath. Maybe he takes by meditation, maybe he takes a mantra bath, sprinkling the body with water or some auspicious liquids and chanting different mantras. He gets up and he performs his normal morning duties. His normal morning duties would probably include Sandhya Vandanam and whatever other morning duties he would perform. And then after the morning, maybe the puja, his daily puja. So the guru or the teacher has to get up, and he has his morning rituals that he has to go through. He has his morning duties. The spiritual master should then he should do the parikalpanam and place the articles of worship and the conch shell in their proper places. So maybe if we look in the commentary, there's more information about this, but probably not. Probably not. But there is definitely a system for doing this, and it's not so complex. Yeah, it does seem to give a few more details in the commentary, but we need to go over that and see. But in general, it's not too difficult to set things up. Okay, so then carrying on with text 56. He's going to tell us a little bit more about the process of placing some of the items. And here it says adao. Adao means beginning with. One of the first processes that we do is a kumbha stapana. What is a kumbha? In Sanskrit, there are some words. Kumbha means pot. Karaka means a pot. Sometimes karaka also means a pot with a spouted water, with a spout. A pot with a place for pouring the water out. A karaka, but a karaka can also mean just a pot. Kumbha, karaka, gata. Gata can also mean a pot. Kalasha. The word kalasha can also mean a pot. Okay, so we have these names for pots in Sanskrit. So it's a ritual pot. The pot represents the body, right? So the esoteric meaning behind the pot is it's a body. And we are going to, with mantra, we're going to invoke some personality into that body. Now, sometimes the pot can be elaborately decorated and set up. One of the ways, first of all, we have a pot. Probably that pot is either made of clay or it's made of metal. It can be silver or it can be copper. The metals that are used for pots are we can have gold as first class, second class, is silver, third class is copper. Although there is a rule here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa that says that copper things are actually considered to be more pure than gold. There's one rule there. And the reason for that is that both copper and gold, both the gold and silver, have to be cut with a little bit of another metal to make them usable, because pure gold is very, very soft, and pure silver is also very, very soft. So usually we don't have pure gold or pure silver, although pure silver is almost totally pure silver. But copper can be 100% pure, 100% only copper, and therefore there's a statement here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa somewhere we can read that copper is considered by some people to be the best metal to make puja paraphernalia out of, or worship paraphernalia out of. But anyway, in general practice, many people use silver because it's not as expensive as gold. Gold's very expensive. But if you see some of the ancient temples in India, they do have many items of the paraphernalia of the deity which are made of pure gold. So that's also possible. So gold, silver, copper, and fourth class is maybe this clay pot, or probably a fired clay pot, maybe, or an unfired clay pot. We don't know. Probably a fired clay pot we want, because we don't want the water to seep out. So those pots are taken, and first thing we have to do is we have to wrap the pot with a thread, cotton thread, which is sometimes dipped in turmeric, which is a purifying agent, which is also turmeric is representative of Lakshmi, auspiciousness, and it's wrapped in a certain way, crisscross way around the pot, and this represents, if the pot represents a body, the crisscross addition of string represents the nerves in the body. Then inside the pot later on, what we'll do, first of all, we'll place the pot on paddy, which is unhusked rice. Or sometimes these days people just use plain white rice, uncooked, and sometimes it's very elaborate in pujas. Sometimes people put a banana leaf and they put certain grains like mustard seeds, and then paddy, and then husked rice, and different layers being separated by different banana leaves, and then put the pot on top. So there's so many different methods of doing it. Okay, I don't know how detailed they're going to get into this here. The pot is placed on top. Certain items are put into the pot. In fact, the whole pot inside is sometimes purified by incense smoke. We take some frankincense and we heat the frankincense. It gives off this purifying smoke, and the pot is held upside down over the smoke. The smoke is filling the pot, and then the pot is turned upside like that. Some items are put inside, like jewels or grains or different things that have gone in, which represent the inner organs of the personality that is going to be invoked in there. Then a cloth is placed over the top, and some water is poured in, That water is usually fragrant water, which has got a mixture of spices in it, like cloves and cardamom and saffron, and there are different things which are put in that, special auspicious items that are put in that water. There's a special mixture called astagandha, 8 types of fragrance, which is put in that water, which you can just buy already mixed up, or otherwise you can get the recipe and you can grind the spices using nutmeg and cloves and cardamom and these different things. I don't have the recipe with me right now, but possible. And that's poured into the pot, and then the pot is covered with a coconut, which is called a shripala. Shripala means the fruit of Lakshmi fruit, and usually a brown coconut. Sometimes in places like Bengal they use a green coconut, but normally it's a brown coconut, and it's been husked, and except for the part over where the eyes are, over the eyes there's a part is left where there's a shika, like a tuft on a person's head, on a Brahmin's head. A Brahmin will have a tuft on his head, on the back of his head, or on different parts of the head actually, because some of the Brahmins have them coming from different parts of the head. But anyway, this shika is to cover the Brahmarandra, the hole at the top of the head, which represents the top part of the Kundalini, which we were talking about before. So this shika should be there on the coconut. The coconuts are sometimes rubbed with turmeric paste, and decorated with tilak and kumkum. And just underneath, though, when putting the coconut on, just underneath them, 5 mango leaves are protruding, which represent. So the coconut represents the head. The different leaves, 5 leaves, are called panchapallava. 5 mango leaves coming out represent the arms, the legs, and the genitals of the personality. So all these things have a meaning, have a meaning, and then we have what we call a proper kumbha. That's what we're talking about here as a kumbha. We're not just talking about the pot. The pot has to be covered with certain things. Sometimes they put a lid on the pot before they put a fruit, and other times not. The fruit just sits on the mouth of on the neck of the pot. So here's the process of placing the water pots. And for instance, there is a whole system of placing and each method of each thing that is done in placing the pot has a different mantra. Usually they're Vedic mantras which are used, but there can be a process with other mantras too. But the Vedic mantras for doing this, I have a system which I have all the mantras, and I have this system. If people are interested in placing the pot according to Gaudiya Vaishnava ritualism, they can certainly learn that. Okay, so just let me know, and I'll let people know about that. Okay, so first of all, in text 56 and 57, it says here, first of all, the guru should worship. So here there's a word here, gurun. Gurun is plural of guru. So the person placing the pot is the guru. The guru is doing this. The spiritual master is doing this in preparation for initiating the disciple, the student. So first of all, he should worship. The word worship here is abhyarcha. Abhyarcha means he has to worship. So first he has to worship his guru. Not just his guru, but his gurus. So normally this is done. It's a process called Guru Parampara Anusandhanam, and we remember not only our guru, but the whole Guru Parampara going back to the Supreme Lord, because this Diksha is going to be offered to the student to link that person to a particular sect and a particular lineage. So the guru has to teach also the lineage to the student. So the first thing the guru has to do is he has to remember the lineage. And by remembering his own lineage, he gets permission from his lineage to introduce a new person to that lineage. And also, he not only gets permission from the lineage, but he also remembers the lineage, because he has to tell, in initiation, the guru has to tell the student the lineage of the mantra. He says, I'm giving you this mantra, and this mantra was given to me by this person and this person and this person, and ultimately it comes from the Supreme Lord, and that is the lineage. Because in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, in Premier Ratnavali, Balaji Bhushana quotes a verse that says, Sampradaya Vihinam Ye, Mantraste Vipalamataha, that without knowing the lineage, or without understanding the lineage, or without receiving a mantra in a lineage, or using a mantra that comes from a lineage, right? There's many ways we can interpret that statement, Sampradaya Vihina. What Sampradaya also means tradition, not exactly a lineage. When we say parampara, it means persona. Guru parampara means one after another. A Sampradaya means more of a tradition. So we should get a mantra in a Sampradaya, in a tradition, and that mantra that we get, that will be fruitful. But if we get a mantra, we don't know the tradition, we don't know where it's from, we don't have any idea of the tradition, we haven't been initiated into the tradition, that mantra may have been made up by somebody and doesn't come in a tradition, it's not a traditional authentic mantra, then how can we expect that we'll get any fruit from that sort of a mantra? We can't expect that. So that is what that sutra says. So therefore, it's very important for the Acharya to sit and do Guru Parampara Sandhanam, worship his gurus, right? By at least remembering them, and maybe by doing external puja or manasika puja in his mind. We'll see what it says here. And then after that, so here he translates this gurun abhyarcha as, first of all, one should worship his spiritual master. One means the person who is the guru. The guru should worship his own guru and his grand spiritual master, the disciplic succession, and the exalted personalities within the sacrificial arena. So that's what he says. Okay. So there's also a system of this mandap of worshiping different personalities of the different directions of at the different doorways of the mandapa of the pavilion. There's on the top of the toranas, the top of the doorways, on each side of the doorways, and there's also pots that are established and personalities that are established in different places in the mandapa. That's all to be done. That's called mandala puja, mandapa puja. Excuse me, mandapa puja. So that also has to be gone through. Okay, so first of all, the guru remembers the Guru Parampara and other exalted personalities, and then one should offer obeisances and take permission from them to perform the ceremony. Right? He says here, by offering them flowers and sandalwood paste. Okay, so one way of offering worship externally is to take flowers or flower petals and dip them in a little sandalwood paste and offer them with a mantra to wherever one is offering worship to the guru. Now, there's different ways that you can externally worship the guru, either in a deity, a kumbha, a yantra, a kurcha, any of these parts, or simply in the mind. Maybe you have a picture, whatever it is, whatever helps you to meditate and on your Guru Parampara, you can have that there, and you can do that. So it's possible. And then it says next one should pray to Ganapati. So the word here is given, Ganesha. Okay, so this is the first time we did hear about, when we heard about mantras for Ganapati. Mantras, Agastya Samhita was discussing in the first Vilasa, we were discussing different mantras. And it mentioned that the Rama mantras and Vishnu mantras are millions of times greater than mantras to Ganesh or to other devatas or, other demigods. So here it said, after worshipping the Guru Parampara, then we should worship Ganesha. Why worship Ganesha? Because Ganesha is the devata who is charged with clearing obstacles in the performance of rituals or in our lives in any way. So even if we want to achieve something like Krishna Bhakti or something like that, there may be some worship of Ganesh that goes on to help do that. There's a stotra even by Radha called Radha Krita Ganesha Stotra. So there's a prayer to Ganesh by Radha. Why Radha is worshipping Ganesh? She's worshiping Ganesh because she wants to get Krishna as her husband or her lover, like that. So we noticed that in this particular time, we're still in Margali month, or the month of Dhanumasam. The gopis at this time performed the Katyayani Vrata, where they were worshipping Mother Durga, to the goddess Durga or Parvati, to get Krishna as their husband. They wanted Krishna to be their husband, like that. So sometimes the worship of demigods or devatas is there in Vaishnava sampradayas, and here it's specifically said in Hari Bhakti Vilas, after worshiping the Guru, we have to worship Ganesh. In other places in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's also going to say that you can worship Ganesh. You can also worship Vishvaksena. Maybe you can also worship both of them. Vishvaksena is somebody that is the head, Lord Vishnu's secretary in Vaikuntha. He's also the head of Lord Vishnu's army. For what reason Lord Vishnu has an army in Vaikuntha, we don't know, because there's no enemies there. But anyhow, this person, Vishvaksena, is a person to go to approach Lord Vishnu, like that. Now, especially for Sri Vaishnavas, he's one of the acharyas that comes in the Guru Parampara, so he will automatically, if you're going to remember the whole Parampara, you're also going to remember Vishvaksena and Mahalakshmi and all these people, right? So they're also part of the Guru Parampara. But if you're in a Parampara or in a Sampradaya which doesn't include Vishvaksena or doesn't include Lakshmi, you can worship those personalities separately. So here we have the worship of Ganapati. So now we can also look at some other books by the Goswamis. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, he also mentions that you should worship Ganapati, that as a Vaishnava, as a Gaudiya Vaishnava. In Krishna Janma Titi Vidi by Rupa Goswami, the actual Vedic mantra for worshipping Ganapati, from Shukla Yajurveda, Ganananam Dva Ganapatigum Havamahe, Nidinantva Nidipatigum Havamahe, Priyanantva Priyapatigum Havamahe. That's Shukla Yajurveda, Madhyandina, Vajrasaneya Samhita version of the Ganapati prayer. There's a Krishna Yajurveda version of that. Ganananam Dva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jestarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anasvinvan Bhutibisi Dasadanam Shri Mahaganadipataye Namaha, like that. So that is in Krishna Yajurveda style. So whatever Vedic style you have, or even if you don't use Vedic mantras, because Vaishnavas, we don't have to use Vedic mantras. Remember that in the Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, 27th chapter, instructions by Lord Krishna on deity worship, he says, I can be worshipped by a Vedic way, a tantric or agamic or pancharatric way, or by a mixed Vedic and pancharatric. So we can either use only Vedic mantras, we can use Vedic and classical Sanskrit mantras, Puranic mantras, or agamic mantras, and we can also use simply agamic mantras. If we're not initiated into the Veda, we haven't learned the Veda properly with proper intonations, swaram, then we can simply use Puranic or normal classical mantras. And ultimately, the Supreme Lord knows all languages, so somebody who doesn't even know Sanskrit can worship the Lord simply by, the thought is most important, the meditation is most important. So just by offering of our obeisances, by bowing down, and thinking about the Guru Parampara and Ganapati and like that, we take their permission to continue this ritual. That's the most important. These are all external things, the actual prayers, they may differ from person to person, from sampradaya to sampradaya, but the principle is that we have to get permission from our ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, as the Guru Parampara. Just as the same when we do family rituals, we get permission from our material ancestors. That is called Nandi Shraddha, or even approaching the parents for permission to marry or to have children, whatever it is. So we always take permission, and the form of permission is formally to perform worship and remember those personalities. So continuing on, so we perform the worship of Ganapati. Now that could also be in a kurcha, in a kumbha, in a yantra, in a mandala. I've seen people write do a kolam or a rangoli, which is with rice flour, just make a design, and inside the design write the bija mantra or the seed mantra of Ganesh, Gam, and then worship Ganesh there. Or you can have a small Ganesh deity, or you can worship Ganesh in a kurcha or in a kumbha or in a pot or a kusha grass wand. There, that can take many different things. Okay, so so that one may be able to complete the worship without any obstacles. So that's nice. Okay, so then sometimes that just takes the form of saying a mantra, Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Tujobhajam Prasannavaranam Dhyayit Sarvigna Upashante. Sarva Vigna Upashante. May all the obstacles go away. Please make all the obstacles go away. Vigna, difficulties. There should be no difficulties. So after that, one should spread unhusked rice. So remember I said paddy. Paddy is unhusked rice. If you can't get unhusked rice, you just get regular rice, regular white rice. He says here, unhusked rice, plain rice, and kusha grass with a lotus on the lotus flower that was drawn on the ground. Okay, so we're going to spread that on the lotus flower, meaning on the middle of the lotus flower. Then one should invoke the presence of the 10 expansions of the fire god. So those mantras will probably be given in the commentary, unless they're given here. Let's see. Yeah, they're given here. Okay. So, but let's just look at this at the commentary of 56 and 57. Yeah, the exact mantras are not exactly given here, but some more details are given about the worship. Anyway, so then invoking the presence of the 10 expansions of the fire god. So each one of the expansions of the fire god is going to have a name. The way that we invoke that expansion of the fire god is by taking the name of the fire god, the particular name, putting it in the dative case, adding namaha to the end, and putting om before it, or a bija mantra. What is the bija mantra for fire? The bija mantra for fire is Ram. Ram Agneya Namaha. Ram, bija mantra. And invoking, so Ram Agneya Namaha, Avahayami, Stapayami, Pujayami. Avahayami, I call you, I summon you. Stapayami, I install you, I establish you. Pujayami, I worship you. Right? After establishing you, Pujayami, I worship you. That's a very simple way of doing it. It can be done in a more elaborate way also. So, invoke the presence of 10 expansions of the fire god. Next one should place the water pitcher or the pot on the platform chanting Om. Chanting Om, place the pot in the middle of the 8-petal lotus. Where exactly the 10 expansions of the fire god go, it's not exactly said. So maybe we need to, anyway, continuing on, text 58 to 63 is going to give us some more details. There are 10 expansions of Agni. Dhumrachi, Ushma, Jwalini, Jwalini, Vishpulingini, Sushri, Surupa, Kapila, Havya, and Kavya. Some people think that a 10-petal lotus at the root of the water pot, some people think of a 10-petal lotus at the root of the water pot and worship the 10 expansions of Agni on those petals. So here that's said that people imagine a 10-petaled lotus. There's a lot more detail here actually in this, because we're talking about Dwara Sannyasa Pujayet Suryasya Chakalaha. There are 12 kalas, or 12 aspects of Surya, which are worshipped. And the first verse gives us the 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. maybe 10 somewhere here. Yeah, maybe 2 here. Okay, so 10, the 10 aspects of fire. And then, okay, so also there's, some people may be familiar with the establishment of uh, uh, items given in Archana Paddhati, or in the Gaudiya Archana Paddhati, or perhaps in Pancharatra Pradeep, I'm not sure. But they say, for instance, Vani Mandalaya, the Vani Mandalaya has Dasa Kalatmani, Dasa colors. And the Surya Mandala has Dwadasa colors. The Dwadasa colors are the 12 zodiacs of Surya, the 12 months of the year. And then there's a Sodasa, there's Agni, and the Sodasa kalas of the moon. The moon has 16 kalas, or different sections, right? Because you have Prathama, Dutiya, Titiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, the different titis up to Amavasya and Purnima. So 1 to 15 is, so you've got 2 Pratamas every month, two Dutiyas, right? 2 Ekadasis, right? But all the way up to 14, and then you have Purnima and Amavasya. So you have actually 16 different aspects of the moon. So you have these kalas of the moon, Soma Kalatmani, or Chandra Kalatmani, right, of 16. You have Surya Kalatmani of 12, and you have Agni Kalatmani of fire. You have 10. Yeah. So these all are used in the establishment of different items here. So Tapani, Kumra. Okay. So let's continue on. Okay. So anyway, some people think that when you're worshiping the 10 forms of, and a shortened form of this is given there in the Archana Paddhati, where they just say Dwadasa Kalatmani Namaha or Dasa Kalatmani Namaha. If I say Agni, Dasa Agni Kalatmani Namaha, it means I'm worshiping all these 10. So that will be a very quick way of worshiping all 10, or establishing all 10. But here it's said to do it in more detail, and each one of them is named, and therefore we should invoke each one of them by name. So we can meditate upon. We don't have. So we've got this 8-petal lotus. Somebody might ask, well, why did we draw an 8-petal lotus when we're going to need to put 10 deities? We should have drawn a 10-petal lotus to start with, and then we could have put them there, right? Then it says some people. So you meditate upon there being a 10-petal lotus. Now, it may be that if we see this actual mandala or yantra, maybe there are 8 petals, maybe there are also 10 petals, and maybe there are also 12 petals, right? So the 10-petal lotus, in the 10-petal lotus, we're worshiping Agni, right? Now, those of you who understand about Kundalini and the different chakras, you could be thinking about that internally, the seat of Agni, which is there in the stomach, the chakra there, right? That may be meditated upon with 10 petals. When the one that has to do with the Surya can be meditated with 12 petals, like that. And so here it says then the 12-petal lotus within the water pot. You should meditate. This is a 12-petal lotus within the water pot. One should worship the 12 expansions of Surya, right, as being situated on those petals. So this involves what we call Pita Puja. After we've established the pot, there's a type of Pita Puja where we invoke the different names of Agni, Surya, and lastly, 16-petal lotus at the mouth of the pitcher, at the top of the pitcher, in which we worship with flowers. We worship the 16 kalas. Fill the pitcher with Ganges water. Still think of other persons, and first fill the pitcher of Ganges water, and then think of the 16-petal lotus at the mouth. So they're going to give the 16 expansions, the 10 expansions of Surya, not 10. This should be 12. Yeah, there's a mistake here. It says 10, but it means 12. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so that's obviously a mistake in the translation. It should be the 12 expansions of Surya are given, and then the 16 expansions of Chandra, or the moon, right? which are invoked at the mouth of the kumbha, of the pot. So the 12 expansion of Surya are Tapani, Dhumra, Brahmari, Jwalini, Ruchi, Shushumna, Bhogada, Vishwa, Bodhini, Dharini, and Kshama. And the 16 expansions or kalas of Chandra are Amrita, Manada, Usha, Tushti, Pushti, Rati, Dhriti, Shashini, Chandrika, Kanti, Jyotsna, Shri, Priti, Rangada, Purna, and Purnamrita. Okay, so this is the establishment of the pot. This is the establishment of the pot. Okay, we're not finished worshiping the pot, but this is just the establishment of the deities in the pot and the worship of those deities. And later on, we'll find out that there's some more things that we have to do with the pot. So then text 64 continues on. So let me see if there's any more details of that worship in the commentary. So we went up to 64. There are some actual mantras here. Shodasha Kalapa. See, Am Akarna Mandalaya, Soma Mandalaya, Namaha. Am Akar. This is from the commentary. So there are some other mantras to be chanted, which are given in the commentary. Yeah. Okay, that's to commentary to the text 58. And then if we continue on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the establishment of the conch shell. So up until now, we've just been establishing the pot in the mandala. So now we're going to place the conch shell. So we have the Shankha Stapana Vidhi, the procedure for establishing the conch shell. One should fill the conch shell with pure Ganges water while chanting the Mula Mantra. The Mula Mantra. What is the Mula Mantra? Okay. So here, let's see if it says anything about that in the commentary 64. Normally, we consider the Mula Mantra is going to be, at any particular diksha, the actual mantra of the Ishta Devata, Lord Krishna, in this case, and it will be the Gopal Mantra, the 18-syllable Gopal Mantra. So otherwise, if it's said otherwise, we'll just look 64. So. Yeah, it says Mula Mantrena in the commentary. It doesn't mention that I can see the actual syllable, the actual mantra itself. That's fine. Okay, so now while chanting the Mula Mantra, and then sprinkle 8 kinds of perfume powders on it. So here it says Ganda Astakam. So remember I told you about the Astagandha, what's called Astagandha, the 8 types of perfume powders, spices, 8 types of spices, spicy powders that are put together in a certain proportion, and this is called Astagandha. So here it's mentioned specifically in the Sanskrit, Ganda Astakam. It means Astagandha. It means that's what it is. And you can buy that or you can make it yourself, as I said. So then sprinkle the 8 kinds of perfume powder on it, right? Normally we would put that powder into the water and we would mix that in the water. It flavors the water. And then when we put the water into the conch, we would first strain the water through some cloth, some cotton cloth, so that if there's any pieces of the spices, they will be taken out, but only the perfume of the spices will be left, and the color of the water will be, of course, changed by the different spices like cloves and nutmeg, etc. So usually we would strain that first, and not just put water in and then put the spices in the conch shell itself, because you're going to get spices. No matter how small you grind them into powder, they're going to get stuck inside the conch shell and very hard to clean. So don't do that. make sure that you have this water prepared and strained before you put it into the conch shell or into the pot, right? Usually when they do the pot, they hold this is some practical advice here. They put a cloth over the mouth of the pot when they're pouring that in so that we don't get any particles. But with the conch shell, you're probably not going to do that. You just should make some liquid which is flavored with this ashwagandha beforehand, but it's been strained before. So just make sure you strain this first before you put it in the conch shell. So then after doing this, one should invoke the presence of the expansions of Agni, Surya, and Chandra. And again, we know this from Arjuna Padadi, from the installation of items when we do daily puja. Edeganda Pushpe Om Am Surya Mandalaya Sodasa Kalapmane Namaha Dwadasa Kalapmane Namaha Vani Mandalaya. Vani Mandalaya means Agni. Vani means Agni. So Vani Mandalaya, Dasa Kalapmane Namaha, and Soma Mandalaya for the Chandra, for the moon. Sodasa Kalapmane Namaha. And that's all we have to do, really. Here, of course, they've given the different names of all these kalas, of these different expansions of Agni and Surya and Chandra in full. So you can either do it in a very simplified way, as it's done in Arjuna Padadi, or you can do it in a more full way. And I do have a Gaudiya Padadi called Gopal Arjuna Padadi, which is coming from a manuscript in the manuscript library in Bhubaneswar. So it's something that is a Gaudiya Vaishnava prayoga from Orissa, from Puri, Jagannath area, and that was given in a book called Communication with God, which is an explanation of Jagannath worship in detail, and it's an appendix of that book, which was in Sanskrit. I have gone through that whole, transliterated and gone through it step by step with my Sanskrit teacher, Dr. Tirunarayan, in Sri Rangam many years ago. So I have that somewhere if people are interested. That gives them more. It's a Gaudiya Vaishnava prayoga, and it gives more elaboration on exactly this procedure of what to do. Okay, so here is going to be explained what the Astagandha is. What Astagandha is in text 65. So, because they're telling us that we should use these 8 powders, so they should tell us what they are. The 8 kinds of fragrant powder are Ushira, Kumkuma. Kumkuma could mean here saffron. Okay, in Tamil, saffron, the word for flower is pu, and kumkuma pu is, if you say kumkum pu, it means saffron, right? So because of the color of saffron is that red color like kumkum. So if somebody says kumkum, it may mean kumkum, which is what? Kumkum is simply turmeric. You get turmeric powder, and if you add a little bit of lemon juice or some chemical like calcium hydroxide, lime, which is used in betel nut preparation of pan, it turns the turmeric into red color. Yeah, and that's what gives the red. Well, the mixture of lime and some other things makes the red thing when people are eating pan. But anyway, so the idea is kumkum itself is real kumkum. It's not a chemical, but it's actually made of turmeric. But it has that red color. So I'm unsure here whether you should use turmeric or you should use what we call kumkum pu, which is saffron. Because normally in Astagandha, I know normally one of the ingredients is saffron and not kumkum. But anyhow, the word is given here. Maybe the commentary tells us more exactly what it is. Ushira is a type of plant. Kumkum, kusta, balaka, aguru. Aguru is a specific type of scent. Very subtle scent. You have to be very careful that they sell a lot of fake aguru, but the real aguru is quite expensive. Mura, Jatamamsi. Jatamamsi, I'm not sure. That could mean anyway, there are different, and chandan. Okay, so there are these different fragrant spices and powders, and you mix them all together in a certain proportion, and you get what's called astagandha. Okay, so we can figure that out. Okay, so carrying on with text 66, according to some people, there's a different list of eight aromatic powders. Chandana, Kapura. Kapura means camphor. Agurura. This is probably aguru. Kumkum. Again, could be kumkum. It could be kumkumpu, which is saffron. Gorochana. Gorochana, I believe, is a yellowish powder which is made with cow urine, or dried powder with cow urine. Cacola. Cacola is a type of berry which is used a lot of times in Achamana. When you're offering Achamana to the deity, you put cacola berries in that. Sihalaka and Jatamamsi. Jatamamsi is also mentioned. I think Jatamamsi is either nutmeg or there's a type of spice, allspice. Maybe it's called allspice. Maybe it's allspice. But anyway, allspice is also one of the things which is put in the astagandha, at least in South India. Okay. So, all right. So these are all, we have to look up all these ingredients and understand what proportions we have to put them in. And again, make sure to flavor the water, but to strain the powders out of the water so that you don't get, that when you're using these, for instance, for abhishekam or for offering or for achaman or whatever, you don't get little gritty pieces in the water itself. That you're just flavoring the water with these things. Okay, so then continuing on with text 67 to 68, thereafter one should perform the proper nyasas. The word nyasa means to deposit. So in this sense, it means to touch a part of something, a deity or a person, even yourself or some of the paraphernalia. Touch them and maybe touch them with your hands or your fingers or with a particular mudra, or to touch them with a piece of kusha grass or in some way touch them, and also chant a mantra at the same time and deposit that energy of that mantra at that place on that thing. So, or that person. Thereafter, one should perform the proper nyasa for the conch shell. So we touch different parts of the conch shell in a certain way while saying these mantras. So while doing so, one should combine the 10 kalas born of the letter A, with the 10 consonants beginning with ka. What are the 10 consonants in the Sanskrit language beginning with ka? Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Right? So combining born of the so it could be that we are going to chant a mantra starting with the letter right? So we might say kam, kam, gam, gam, nam, cham, cham, jam, jam, nyam, right? And then say this is for something. Anyway, we're going to do nyasa with these, and normally when you do nyasa, you're going to either add the anushwara, or you're going to add the visarga, aha, or both. Right? So here we have kang, kang, gang, gang, gang. So chung, 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 chung. Right? Starting with kam, kang, yang, kam, gam, gang, nang, chung, 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 yang. Then the 10 kalas born of u, right? The letter u, with 10 consonants beginning with ta. So after cha, 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 nya, we get ta, ta, da, da, na, ta, ta, da, da, na. So it would be ta, ta, da, tam, tam, dam, dam, nam, tam, tam, dam, dam, nam. And then the 10 kalas with born of ma, right? So we see here, so there are 10 kalas born of a. There are 10 sections of a, of u, and of m, right? Which makes up the syllable, the transcendental syllable om. So the point here is we place the pot with om, right? So the Om is a bija mantra. Om is a seed mantra. Om is a transcendental vibration. Om is the essence of the Vedas, and each letter of the word Om, A, U, and Ma, right? A-U-M, has got also parts to it. The parts to the letter A are ka, ka, kam, kam, gam, gam. All these different consonants come out of, just like we have expansions and other expansions of the Supreme Lord. We're talking about expansions of A, U, and Ma. So the 10 expansions of A are kam, kam, gam, gam, nam, tam, 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 nam. And then we have of U, tam, tam, dam, dam, nam, tam, tam, dam, dam, nam. And then from Ma, we have pam, pam, beginning with pam. Okay, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. The 10 kalas born from the 10 consonants begin with pa. So beginning with pa, we've got pa, pa, ba, ba, ma, ya, ra, la, va, sha. Right? The 4 kalas born of a bindu. The 4 kalas born of a bindu. The bindu is also, Om is not just A, U, and M, but it's also the after sound of M. Because M is not a pure M, it's not just Ma, but it's the Anushwara, which is not an ordinary Ma, but it is the pure nasal sound. And if you see the symbol Om, there's this dot, which is called a bindu, or a bindu means a dot or a drop. Okay, so the meditating upon the dot, which is in the form of the Anushwara in the Devanagari Om, as a bindu, right? The 4 kalas born of the bindu, there are 4 sections to that bindu, with the 4 consonants beginning with, sha, sha. So the first sha, which is a palatal S, comes as part of the 10 kalas, or the 10 parts beginning with pa. So we have pa, pa, or pom, pom, bom, pom, mom, and sham. That S with an acute accent, which is a palatal S, comes in that section. Then after that, the next part of the Sanskrit alphabet is the S with a dot under it, and then the regular dental S. So you've got the cerebral S and the dental S. So starting with the cerebral S, it says there are 4 kalas. So we've got sha, sa, ha, and one more. There are 4 kalas of that. The last one I would tell you is in the Sanskrit alphabet, that should usually be the end of the alphabet. Sha, 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 sa, ha. But in Tantra or in Mantra Shastra, an extra letter is usually added, or sometimes more than one letter is added. Normally, the next letter after that is sha, is a combination of K and S with a dot under it, the cerebral S, which is the symbol for destruction. So this is very common, that we have an alphabet that starts with a letter which represents everything or represents creation, right? The letter A, for instance, in Sanskrit represents Lord Vishnu. It represents everything. It represents creation, right? And at the end, you have another letter, Ksha, K-S-A, which represents destruction. So for instance, in Greek, you have Alpha is the first letter. Omega means destruction. So Alpha means beginning, creation, and Omega means the end of the alphabet, destruction. So Alpha Omega means from the beginning, from the creation to the destruction, like that. The letter Ksha in Sanskrit also represents Narasimha, also represents destruction. It means destruction, because he destroyed the demon Hiranyakashipu. So Ksha. And in the Bija mantra of Narasimha, we know it's Shrom, right? It begins with that KS. So and even in Diksha, even in the word Diksha itself, we have that Ksha, which is to destroy the ignorance of the student. The ignorance of the student is destroyed by this Ksha. So although it's not mentioned here exactly, we can look in the Sanskrit, verse 68. In the commentary, it should be. This is why what you really need to read this book with somebody who knows the inner meanings of the rituals, because if you don't know the inner meanings of these rituals, then you will not know what this last letter of the alphabet is going to be. But my guess is that, from my experience and from my knowledge, it should be Sha, although it's not mentioned here. But there are some other things that it could be, but it's Sha. It should be normally Sha. So let's look, verse 68. In the commentary to verse 68, I'm not seeing exactly the letter Sha being mentioned, but anyway, that's okay. All right, so these 4 divisions of the bindu, of the dot on the omkara, are going to be cerebral as sha, sa, ha, and sha, sa, ha, and sha, I believe. Okay. So then it says, and the 16 kalas born of the sounds of the 16 vowels. The 4 kalas of the bindu are those, right? So you're going to have sham, sam, ham, sham. Then you're going to have, after that, you're going to have the different vowels, the 16 vowels. Now, what are the 16 vowels? There are a, I, u, ri, ri, a, I, o, ow. Probably and aha. So let's see, we've got 10. A, I, u, ri, times 2 is 10, right? Plus 4, a, I, o, ow, and plus 2, 16. The 16 vowels are going to include Anushwara and Visarga. Okay, so now the last thing is we have to do nyasa. All these nyasas have to be done on the conch shell. We have to touch the conch shell in different places, and we have to say these different bija mantras. What is a bija mantra again? It's a syllable with the Anushwara, M. So kang, kang, gang, gang, gam, kam, kam, gam, 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 and touching different parts of the conch shell. So the last thing that we have to do is with all the vowels. So it's going to be im, reem, reem, aim, I'm, om, aha. Okay? So fully, we're chanting the whole Sanskrit alphabet with the Anushwara after each letter. But the way that we do it is we start with the consonants, right? Start with the consonants, and in each case we maybe we start with the letter A before the first 10 consonants, the letter U before the second 10 consonants, and the letter Ma before the third consonant. So it could be, the full thing could be Am, Kam, Kam, Gam, Gam, Nam, Cham, Cham, Jam, Jam, Yam, Tam, Tam, Dam, Dam, Nam, Tam, Tam, Dam, Dam, Nam, Mam, Pam, Pam, Bam, Bam, Mam, Yam, Ram, Lam, Vam, Sham, then Sham, Sam, Ham, Sham, Im, Rim, Rim, Aim, I'm, aha. So that's the complete set of things that have to be chanted on the conch shell. And exactly how to do that is not exactly said. We need to go into the commentary for the more exact. There are different places on the conch shell, perhaps, where these different bija mantras or different aksharas. The word akshara means a syllable or a sound. And it means akshara means again that word that letter ksha, ks, is there in the word akshara, which means syllable. Akshara means indestructible. So these are indestructible sounds, eternal sounds of the Sanskrit language, which have to be placed on the conch shell. Okay, so that's the system of placing and worshipping the conch shell. Let's see what else is mentioned there. Okay, so continuing on to verses 69 to 73. Whoops. Okay, the 10 kalas born of A. Oh, so now it's going to go into the details of what each of these kalas are said to be. So It may be that even a more elaborate way of doing this is to mention each one of these kalas in the dative case with namaha after them, and also precede that with the letters of the alphabet that were mentioned in the previous thing. So I'm not sure about that. We have to check that out. In which case, the 10 kalas which are born out of the A of Omkara are Shristi, Riddhi, Smriti, Meda, Kanti, Lakshmi, Driti, Stira, Stiti, and Siddhi. The 10 kalas, or parts of U, the U letter in Omkara, are Jara, Palini, Shanti, Aishwari, Rati, Kamika, Varda, Ladini, Priti, Dirga, right? The 10 kalas of the Ma syllable, right? The M, right? Are Tikshna, Rodra, Bhaya, Nidra, Tantri, Shut, Krodini, Kriya, Utkari, and Mrityu. All of these have a specific meaning. They may have a form. They may be devatas or goddesses, probably goddesses that have this form, and that have a form, and they have this name, and therefore the guru should know all of these things, and he should know this. And while he's doing this, he has to be meditating upon the form of each one of these kalas, these different kalas, who are different energies of the different aspects or parts of the different letters of Omkara, and he has to establish them. While he's established them, he has to meditate upon each one of these. Even later on, we'll see that before chanting any mantra, we have to meditate upon all the different letters of the alphabet, and Mother Saraswati giving us permission to chant these mantras. So just chanting a mantra, just get a mantra and chant it like that. It's not such an easy thing. If you want to do it with perfection, then you have to follow all of the procedural, what we call japangas, like that, according to Mantra Shastra and Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Of course, we mentioned that there's no rules and regulations for some mantras previously, so that's also possible. But here, this particular, the acharya or the guru, he wants to make everything perfect for the disciple. So he wants to impart the mantra in a perfect way to the disciple. So he performs all of these rituals in order to purify his own mind, and so that he becomes a pure vessel to offer the pure mantra to the disciple, like that. So here we have also the 4 kalas of Bindu. Remember, the Bindu is the dot on the Omkara, right? So we did the 10 kalas of A, U, and Ma. Now the Bindu, the 4 kalas of that are Pita, Sweta, Aruna, Asita. Okay, so then the 16 kalas born of the sounds of the vowels in the Sanskrit alphabet, right? Because without the vowels, we can't pronounce any of these mantras, right? Nivriti, Pratishta, Vidya, Shanti, Indika, Deepika, Rechika, Mochika, Sukshma, Asukshma, Amrita, Jnana, Agyana, Apyayini, Vyapini, Vyomarupa, and Ananta. So if you know the meaning of some of these words, it's very interesting. For instance, Vidya is a goddess, Shanti is a goddess. These are even Shukshma means very Shukshma, Ashukshma. There are some contradictory or opposite. There are some goddesses which have different names here, or different kalas which have different names here. Jnana, Agyana, Vyapini, Apyayini, Vyomarupa, the form of air or space. Ananta, unlimited. So there's many different names that come here. They all have a meaning. They all have a form, and they all have a purpose. And therefore, the guru, the acharya, should know all of these things, so that he can properly establish these things. So we're going to continue on and explain. It's going to be explained exactly how you should do this. So in text 74, this is a very important text. It says, therefore, one should vibrate Om in the beginning of the mantra. The name of the kala should end in the 4th case, the dative case, right? And one should end the mantra with the end the mantra with namaha. So each one of these names should be put in the dative case and should be chanted should be chanted, right? So here it gives an example. It gives an example. So where do we have, where's the first example? The first example, the first one of the 10 kalas is Shrishti, right? So if you look down here, this says Om Shrishtyai is the Shrishti in the dative case, and Namaha. And what is this? Here is the letter of the alphabet. Remember I said we have to take the letters of the alphabet and we have to add Anushwara to them. So we had Kam, Kam, Gam, Gam, Nam. Okay, so that Kam actually has to be expanded and it has to be said in a way with the name that is given later of the actual kala, the actual part of the letter A here, right? One of the 10 kalas, the first kala of the letter A is Shrishti. So we have to say Om to start any mantra, Kam to start the first, is the bija mantra for the first kala of A in Omkara. Shrishyai is the name of the first kala of A in Omkara, and Namaha to end the mantra. So Om, Kam, Shrishyai, Namaha. So what will be the next one? Riddhi, Ridyai. Ridyai will be the, right? So they haven't given it, but we have to know Sanskrit and we have to construct all these mantras and know how to do that. So therefore, this is the rule being given in verse 74 of how to actually take the Samhita section here, the section which tells you what to do, and turn it into a prayoga, turn it into something like a cookbook of an actual set of series of mantras that you can actually use, like that. So he's given you an example here. In the commentary, it's also there. I saw Sanatana Goswami gives the example, this example in the commentary. So the next one, I can just tell you, the next one is Riddhi. So Riddhi is going to be Ridyai in the dative place, Namaha. So, but it's not just going to be Ridyai Namaha, it's going to be Om Kam, K-H-A-M, K-H-A Anushwara, Om Kam Ridyai Namaha. The next one, Shmriti, Shmityai, is going to be Om Gam, Om Gam, Om Gam Shmityai Namaha. The next one is going to be Medayai, Medayai, so it's going to be Om Cham, Om Cham Medayai Namaha, right? Om Nam, Nam Kantyai Namaha, right? Like that. Om Cham Lakshmiyai Namaha, like that. So you just keep going like that. We can write it out. We can write it out and make it a prayoga for those persons who can't do this in their heads, and just add the dative case ending. Okay, so in continuing on, it says, text 74, thereafter one should vibrate Om at the beginning of the mantra, the name of the kala. Oh, we did that already. Okay, I'm sorry. And he gives the example. Correct, that's the rule. Okay, so then text 75 and 76 is going to tell us a little bit more about this. After worshipping the 50 kalas. Now, did we have 50 kalas? Did we have 50 kalas? We had 50 things. We had 10 kalas for A, 10 kalas for U, 10 kalas for Ma, that's 30, plus 4 is 30 floor for the Bindu, 4 kalas for the Bindu, plus 16. Yes, that's 50 kalas. That's 50 aspects of the three letters that make up Om. And remember, Om is everything. Om is the essence of the Vedas. So these 50 divisions of Omkara, right, are divided up, right? Then it says, after worshipping the 50 kalas, but before the invocation of life, the prana pratista, before doing the prana pratista, purvam prana pratistayas, before the prana pratista, avahanat means invoking, right? One should chant 5 mantras from the Rig Veda. So it says up here, Richa Pancha Yatastanam, right? Richa means from the rigs, 5 rigs, right? 5 mantras from the Rig Veda. After invoking the 10 kalas of A, one should chant the Hamsa Suchishad. Hamsa Suchishad, yeah, we have to check that out, find what mantra that is. And after the 10 kalas of U, one should chant the Pratad Vishnu, that we know, Pratad Vishnu, Sabati Virya Ya Mrgona Vima Kucharoga. That's a mantra from Vishnu Shukta, right? Then we have after the 10 colors of Ma, we should chant the Triambakam Yajamahe mantra, Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam, etc. Right? And then we have a Vishnu Yonim mantra. That is the mantra used in Garbhadana Samskara for impregnating the wife. And we should chant that. So after the 10 colors of Triambakam Yajamahe, the Mahamrityunjaya mantra has to be chanted after Ma. And this Mahamrityunjaya mantra is usually chanted for Shiva. But in fact, actually, Vaishnavas can also meditate on Narasimha. They can also use it for, it's also used in Ayushya Homa, or if somebody has his Mahamrityunjaya Homa for long life or for freedom from disease. And it's normally considered a mantra for Shiva, but we can also think of the internal super soul, the Antaryaman of Shiva, the Sriman Narayana or Lord Krishna. And we can worship the Lord with using this mantra anyway, because these are all Vedic mantras. And then it says, after invoking the 4 kalas of the Bindu, remember what the 4 kalas of the Bindu were? Well, they're mentioned up here by name, right? The 4 kalas of the Bindu, Pita, Shweta, Aruna, and Asita. But they're also mentioned by their Bija mantra, which is beginning with cerebral S, Sham, Sam, Ham, and Cham, right? These 4 kalas born of Bindu, right? One should chant Tat Savitur. Tat Savitur means the Gayatri mantra, Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargode Vasidimahi Zyoyona Pachodayate, right? So after invoking them, you have to chant that. We should make a prayoga of this and make it easy to do. After invoking the 16 kalas born of sound, right, which means the vowels, right, one should chant Vishnu Yonim. So the Vishnu Yonim, as I said, that Vishnu Yonim Kalpayatu mantra, which is used in Garbhadana Samskara. Okay, so in continuing on, so that's pretty clear. Okay, it's clearly explained over the course of these different sutras how to exactly establish this conch shell, and therefore we can do that. We just have to look at these things, and we have to make a prayoga, make a procedure or vidhi from these verses that we see here, and writing out all the mantras in full and putting them in the proper order. And that's pretty clear, very, very clear. Okay. So then continuing on verses 77 to 78, thereafter one should pour the purified water in the conch shell into the water pitcher. So after we've invoked all of these energies, kala means energies, right? Kala is these energies, these sections, right? All of these energies of the different letters of Omkara, energies of the Lord, right? After we've invoked all these energies and meditated upon the meaning of all these things, then we should take that water that we've invoked the energy into and pour it into the kumbha that we have placed on the mandala of the flowers, right? While chanting the Mula mantra. So pour it in, Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, while we put it in. Then one should cover the pitcher with Indravali, mango twigs, and Panchapallava. So there'll be some, not exactly sure what this Indravali is, but Panchapallava we described before. 5 mango leaves. They can all be attached to one. If you don't have mango leaves, you can use some other leaf, but mango leaves, if they're all attached to one stem, it's good. If they're not, then you can just, take them individually and put them around there. So the tips are pointing out of the top of the kumbha. After this, one should cover the pitcher with a lid of clay. Or it could also be a metal lid on top. Next, one should offer flowers, fruits, uncooked rice, place them on the lid. You then cover the whole pitcher with a dhoti. So offer a cloth to the kumbha. Then one should decorate the pot with a flower garland and sandalwood paste. So normally when we do sandalwood paste, normally what they do is you take some turmeric. It could be sandalwood paste or turmeric paste, and put a dot in each of the 4 directions on the body of the pot, and then cover that with, it'll be a little bit wet, and then dab some kumkum on each one, like that. And you can do the same thing for the head, but the head can just have one dot or one vertical stripe of kumkum. Okay, so now the pot is completely set up. Right, now the pot's completely set up. Now the pot is set up, and the pot has been purified by all of these energies of all these different parts or energies that are coming out of the syllable Om. Right. So now comes the process of actually worshiping the Lord in that pot. Because remember, it said up here, we should do all of this before we do the prana pratishta. Purvam prana pratistayas. Before we do the avahanat, before we invoke the Lord and do the prana pratishta in the pot, we should do all of this. This is all preliminary worship of the pot. So now, the process of worshiping the Lord in the water pots. This kumbhe is actually singular. So he has written here pots, water pots, but it's actually water pot. There's only one pot so far. So let's continue on, right? Verses 79 and 80. Thereafter, the spiritual master, or his, representative, the person who's performing the ritual, should invoke the personality of Godhead, Krishna. What does it say here? Okay. Into the water pot and then worship him according to the prescribed rules and regulations, offering him an asana, asanadibihi, puja yet. He should offer puja, asana, beginning with offering a seat. So that just means all of the different Sodasupacharas, the 16 types of services that are offered in worship, beginning with offering a seat. Asanam, stapanam, swagatam, welcome, padyam, argyam, achamaniyam, etc. Right. And other items. At the same time, you should meditate on the transcendental Lord of Lord Krishna as situated within the water pot and perform 6 kinds of nyasas, soda sannyasas, devata ange, on the limbs of the deity, which in this case means the pot, nyasasyat, right? You should do the nyasas on the pot, right? And perform the soda sannyasa. This is called not soda sannyasa, but sadnyasa, saranganyasa. So when we do saranganyasa on ourselves, Kriya Namaha, Sirase Swaha, Shikaya Vasate, Kavachaya Hum, Netrabyam Vosate, or sometimes Netra Trayaya, if we're thinking about a deity with 3 eyes like Lord Narasimha or Durga, and Astraya Pate, right? So these are the 6, right? Kriya Namaha on the heart, Sirase Swaha on the forehead, Shikaya Vasate on the back of the head or above the Brahmarandra where the Sika is, Kavachaya Hum, like a shield or like an armor, covering us, Kavachaya Hum, a Netrabhyam or Netratrayaya Voshate on the 2 eyes or the 3 eyes, Swaha Astraya Pate Ombudvavasuha Ididik Bandaha, and then closing the directions around us to protect us. So the same thing is done when invoking the deity. So you do Hriya Namaha, Sirase Swaha, Shikaya Vasate, Kavachaya Hum, Netrabhyam Voshate, like that, to the deity. Same thing is done on the deity, in this case, the pot, like that. You can watch my YouTube video of Avahanadi Mudras. Avahanadi Mudras shows you very clearly in the beginning of the Avahanadi Mudras before we, and later on in the 5th Vilasa also, we're going to be describing the process of invoking the deity and doing Avahanam of the deity. In this case, the deity which is being invoked is Sri Krishna in that pot, and he's going to be worshipped worshipped in the process of Diksha, in the beginning of the process of the Diksha. Okay, so we've already worshipped the Guru Parampara, we've already worshipped Ganapati, and now we've already done the preliminary Pita Puja, establishing this mandala or this yantra, and then establishing the pot on it, and invoking all the energies of Omkara within the water and within the pot. And now we're invoking Sri Krishna into the pot and offering different. There's probably a dhyana mantra, which should be a meditational mantra, which probably should be chanted at this time. And then the proper system of prana pratishta is gone through, including the saranganyasa, on the pot. And later on, we'll see that there are other mudras which are to be offered also when calling Krishna and worshipping Krishna. There are 5 mantras which include the flute and different things, bilva fruit and different mudras, and we'll find those too. They should also be done at this time, but because we haven't learned those yet in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, all we can talk about at this point is we can talk about the Saranganyasa, which is given there. Okay, so continuing on with text 81. According to another opinion, apart from the Karanyasa and Pitanyasa, one should think of the impersonal effulgence of the Absolute. Okay, so some people think the Teja, you should be thinking about the energy of the Lord entering into the pot, right? So either we think of the energy of the Lord entering into the pot, the Lord's effulgence entering in the pot, or we think of the personality of the Lord entering into the pot in a form inside the pot. So we have to meditate like that. And then it says here Karanyasa and Pitanyasa. Pitanyasa was when we perform puja Adharmaya Namaha, Ajnanaya Namaha, Dharmaya Namaha, like this, around the pot. And then the Karanyasa is performed on the hands, and the Anganyasa is performed on the body. So normally what happens is before the guru does these things, he performs these nyasas on his own self, and then he performs nyasas on the pot. So he might do the Karanyasa. In the case of the pot, you don't do Karanyasa because the pot doesn't have any hands. So you simply do the Anganyasa. So on yourself, you do the Karanyasa and Anganyasa, and then you do Anganyasa on the pot. So this is according to another opinion, is what they're saying here. So there may be something more given in the commentary. We don't know. I don't see anything specifically here too much about it. But anyway, it's going to be, just as I said. Okay, so not exactly sure why I mentioned Karanyasa here, but normally the person does Karanyasa himself and Anganyasa before he does it on the pot. Okay, so continuing on, we have verses 82 to 83. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Lord Krishna along with his associates. Okay, so probably the associates of Krishna are just mentioned in the meditation, in the dhyana mantra for worshiping Krishna, and not necessarily are we going to go into actually install each and every associate being situated in the water pot. We just think Krishna's there, and he's there with all of his associates, his consorts, his servants, and his associates, his retinue. So after offering food to the Lord, one should place sprouts on many plates that are decorated with ghee lamps. Let's see what it says here. Sabi Jankura Bhajanam. Sabi Jankura Bhajanam. Okay, so what's being described here is actually normally a separate ceremony, right? Place sprouts on many plates and then decorate with ghee lamps and other articles, set them in different places within the sacrificial arena. Okay. So we want to put some lights around the sacrificial arena, meaning not just electric lights, but ghee lamps, auspicious ghee lamps. And there will also be some sprouts. So in a certain area in the mandap, there'll be an area where we grow sprouts. These sprouts are grown from taking navadanyas, or 9 different grains, soaking them overnight, and then we go and we perform the worship of the earth and Vraha Dev and the earth, on the earth, and we collect some dirt to bring back, and we have these clay vessels called palakas, and we put them in a 9x9, a 3x3 square. And we put the dirt from our Bhumi Puja there after we come back from the procession from getting the earth, which is called Mritsangraharanam. So the ceremony for doing this is called Mritsangraharanam. You go out for a procession. Usually you take the processional deity of Vishvaksena or Chakradalwar, the chakra, and you go there, and then you perform the worship of Varaha and Bhumi on the earth. After doing valediction of the deities, after worshiping them, you take a shovel or a pick or some sort of implement, and you break the earth and you place it in some of the sacred earth in a basket, and you bring it back on top of somebody's head after worshiping it. And you may also worship the shovel, worship Vasuki or Shesha in the shovel before you break up the earth, and then you bring it back. When you bring it back, you bring it into the Yagashala and go to, I believe it's I think we're talking about the northeast corner, but I could be wrong. We have to check this out. Northeast corner, there's a raised standila or altar on which we place these 9 clay vessels, and there are different. They're called palikas. There's some other names for them too, and for different ceremonies, they're different shapes. But just for normal situation like this, we have just a clay dish, and we place the dirt on these things. Then we have previously, after we worship Ganesh, we probably have performed a ceremony called Punyavachanam to make holy water, and we sprinkle that earth and make it those dirt that we put in the 9 clay plates with water from the Punyavachanam. Then we take the sprouts, the grains that have been soaking overnight, and we place them in each one of the 9 plates. And we also sprinkle them with more water from Punyavachanam, and we chant Sakuna Shukta, I believe, to help grow to help these grains grow and sprout. And then we might even establish another kumbha there called the Soma Kumbha, in which we invoke the Lord of the moon to shine his rays upon the sprouts and to make the sprouts grow, because the sprouts growing is going to show us how auspicious the ceremony is going to be. So growing the sprouts and planting the seeds in this part of the Yagashala is called Ankura Arpanam. So we have Mritsangraharanam to get the dirt and Ankurapanam to grow the sprouts. That's what's being described here. Okay. So when I was studying Hari Bhakti Vilasa with Vishwambhara Goswami of Radharaman, so I asked him, what does this mean? What is this thing with growing sprouts? And he said, well, we don't do this anymore. If anybody's going to follow Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it's the Radharaman people, because they're descendants of the original disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he said, we don't do this anymore, but he said, if you go to South India, go to Sri Rangam, where Gopal Bhatta was from, they still do all these things, and you can go and learn those. That was my initial impetus to go to South India and to meet Sri Vaishnavas in Sri Rangam and learn from them things that were forgotten or no longer practiced, which were there in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Okay, so continuing on, after doing the Mritsangraharanam, the Ankurapanam, and previously doing a Punyavachanam in order to have water to grow the sprouts, maybe even installing a Soma Kumbha for the moon to help grow the sprouts, then we come to the next thing, which is the Diksha Homa Vidhi. So this was quite a complex discussion today. So we've been going for a couple of hours. Maybe we should stop here, and when we start the fire cycle, the actual Diksha Homa Vidhi, we can start that tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Otherwise, if there's any questions that you have right now, let me know. It's probably getting late for you there.
I don't have questions. It was quite esoteric, quite complex. But this last part, what is explained, we did it also with Amara Prabhu at our temple recently, so it was nice.
Oh, good
to see it also here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it's all the same sort of things. There's some slight differences in the prayoga, but in the procedure, but that comes from whatever text it's coming from. But the procedure is all pretty much the same. So you did a fire ceremony, but you were doing a diksha or something else?
No. When we were doing this reinstallation, we did this with sprouts, Ankuranan. How is it called?
Oh, the Ankur Aparanam. Ankura means sprout.
Yeah.
Arpanam means growing. Ankurapanam.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we did it. We did it when we installed the deities there, and at both times. You always do it. Especially important to do it when there's a longer ritual that takes more than one day. Because how much can the sprouts grow in one day? They normally don't grow much.
Right.
But if you're doing a ceremony that takes 3 or 4 days, or usually an installation takes 3 days minimum, and then you can stretch it out sometimes nine days, and you can get some big plants actually after 9 days. Or if it's a bad ceremony and you made a lot of mistakes, the things can rot. I've seen it both ways.
Right.
I've seen it happen in both ways. So it gives us an idea of the auspiciousness of the ceremony from the vibrations of the mantras and things.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.